from being originally released on the PS3 as a Japan-only title called Shining Resonance, to later getting ported to multiple consoles and remastered. This is how Shining Resonance Refrain came to be, a spin-off in the Shining series that, for the longest time, all I ever heard about it was that people either complained that it was too similar to the Tales of franchise, or that it wasn't a new Shining Force entry instead. So this is something I actually was curious about for years, so only now decided to actually check out. So the main premise is that the Empire Lombardia had actually captured this young man named Yuma, who's the host of the Shining Dragon, one of the huge world dragons of this world. But he is rescued by Knights of Astoria, who ask if Yuma is willing to lend them their aid. The only issue is that Yuma is unsure if he wants to really use the Shining Dragon's power. Not because it's evil, it's actually not. It's actually one of the biggest enemies I've seen in the game in a while. It's more so that when he uses it, he tends to lose control of it and is afraid of what will happen if this were to happen in a major moment and potentially, accidentally harm the people he cares about. One thing to note right off the bat is that this game has both an original and refrain mode, which the only big difference, the refrain mode gives you access to 2 extra party members who never joined you in the original mode, but they are labeled as spoiler characters as they are story significant characters, they just never joined you in the original mode. I see some say to just start with refrain mode since it's the only real difference, and some say screw knowing these characters, basically at some point join your side. So some people just say go refrain mode, and I kind of feel like that should be the choice, mostly because there's no new game plus. If you beat the game on original mode, then start refrain mode, which is what the game recommends. That means you're starting from scratch twice with no actual benefit other than now you have these 2 extra party members when you start the game. So the main combat of this game is an action combat where you have basic attacks, break attacks, which if you're able to use enough or at the right timing, are actually able to break enemy guards and completely stun them for a bit, and you also have skills that are referred to as forces. You also have a meter that shows that you can't really use your attacks too often, but something that I really like is the fact that if you use a force, it actually recharges your AP. It doesn't use your AP, it'll use your MP, but you can recharge your AP and keep your combo going, and that is a pretty cool way of handling it, the fact that you're able to recharge essentially your stamina through doing it in force. Also in this world are Dragoneers, which are special people who are able to use the harmonics, which are special weapons that are able to empower the dragons. How? Through song. And I love the fact that these harmonics are both weapons and also instruments, not only in design, but also the fact that if this character uses magic, they'll actually be using the instrument part and playing a song, which I think is super cool and also ties it to a mechanic I'll mention later. But I just love the design and how each character incorporates it into their whole entire weapon. That is a super cool thing. One thing I wish is that I know that Yuma is not a Dragonair since he's the host of Shining Dragon, but I would have preferred it if he were to use his sword as like a conductor's baton kind of thing, but no, he doesn't get that kind of thing, sadly. Another aspect of combat is the fact that since you have Shining Dragon, he's able to use it in combat. And you do have the risk versus reward that while it is more powerful, you do have the issue that you could turn into Berserk state and lose control of Yuma. That aspect of the story is an actual risk versus reward in the gameplay, and I do like that aspect. I do like that they do keep that consistent and give you you sure you want to use this kind of thing? That's what a combat I'll mention is the band system, where the party can actually play certain songs in battle to provide buffs, but also so it's a double purpose where if Yuma has gone berserk, you're actually able to also use this to stop his berserk state. You could also start the band before Yuma goes berserk, so that way it prevents from going berserk, but then Yuma is not part of the band, so it's not as powerful as it was if he were to be part of it. So there are options and downsides and drawbacks to how you decide to go about things. With the band system is that the effects you get depending on who's the center are very similar. Like a lot of characters just give the same effect regardless of who's the center, so it kind of makes it feel like there's not enough variety in the buffs on who you would rather use for the band. So I do like the touch that a character like Kirka, who's not just a Dragoneer but also Diva Magica, actually changes her outfit and is actually in her animation singing rather than using her instrument if she wasn't the center. So I do like that kind of little detail they have for some of the characters. One of my gripes early on in the game is that you don't really have a full party of Dragoneers early on, which is a problem because that means you'll probably be less inclined to use a character who's not a Dragoneer, so you'll probably focus on, the Dragoneers since they can help more in battle. And this is a problem because catching up people who aren't getting EXP is rough. Like, I just stopped trying to get lower level characters leveled up because of just how long it takes to even do that. So it sucks there's no EXP for characters who are benched, and also characters who are KO'd in a fight also don't get EXP. So the game is just really stingy how EXP is doled out, but also I'm not even sure if level ups truly matter, because I've had fights with with bosses where the bosses were sometimes 20 to nearly 40 levels higher than my party, and yet I would still win the fight just fine. So maybe the levels aren't actually an issue. Maybe a little different is actually fine. There are side quests you can do in this game, and even your own party members will give you side quests, which is pretty cool. But one of my biggest issues with the side quests, not the side quests themselves, they're pretty basic stuff. My main issue is when you get one and complete it, because you have to sit through the same little animation of the game going, quest accepted, and then you complete it, quest completed, and you can't skip it at all. You're just stuck standing there the entire time, and I just wish that wasn't a thing. I just wish that you could skip that, because keep things moving. I don't need to see that every single time. It's not so dramatic considering the quests aren't anything that major. Like, come on. Little side dungeon you can do in the game called the Grimoire, which is basically just an RNG made dungeon, but I love the fact that there's variety able to choose the layout and location which could affect what enemies, but you can also add bonus modifiers to it to add even more enemies, add better bosses at the end, add better rewards, and there are also random events that can happen during the Grimoire. So I do like that is a way for you to try and level up characters, even though like before I said it's kind of ineffectual to try to level up characters who aren't leveled up, but you can make the attempt and also get bonus rewards or increase the reward levels, other stuff you get. So I do like that's an option in the game. So rather than equipment in this game, instead the only thing you really customize are the character's harmonics with aspects, which are little things you're able to put to customize, whether it be to increase their stats or add extra abilities, power off their abilities. There are some aspects that are character specific, and I do like that little addition, but since all the weapons are also instruments, their main thing is be able to tune them. Tuning them changes their affinity, and while a lot of them basically just boil down to, now that base damage does X effect, there are some other ones that just increase also aspects of the character, like one that makes the healer's abilities better and stuff like that. So there are other stuff you can do to make the characters more specific to how you want them to use, how you want to play them and all that. You do also unlock traits for characters, whether through the plot or just by hanging out with them. So you get those. What do those do? You can put them into this whole entire diagram with the character dynamics and then change the traits. What does this affect? I don't really know, and people tell me the answer's in the manual. So let's check that manual. Sick. Okay, people say generally this is a virtual manual able to use for the game and all that was down nowadays, but basically I always know that people say just pick the blue traits. Apparently people say the best one, but otherwise you have to go to a place like GameFAQs to even know what the traits even actually do, because the game doesn't really tell you at all.
Precisely. If there is something amiss with the dish, surely it is the chef.
The chef's fault?
Top of combat, you're also able to just socialize with your party, which there are a lot of just little scenes you get with the party, or even NPCs around the town, which is super cool. But if you try kind of enough and get their affection rating enough, you're then able to invite them to a conversation at night, and then if that's high enough, you're then able to basically just ask them out and have an entire date with them. I do like the fact that you're able to manually go around town to different places to actually pretty much take them on a date. I just wish there were more things to do, because some characters don't go to certain places in a date, and well, their city's not exactly that big. It's basically just 2 screens. So I wish there was more to it, and I wish it was less awkward than having to go to a character, invite them, then go to an inn the rest of the night, have the scene at night, then invite them out, then go back to the character, then invite them to the date. And it's like, why can't this be? Why does it have to be like this? But you do get different character endings depending on what character you pick. So there is a reason to do it, and there's also the fact that you can also just date multiple characters without any repercussions. So you can try and do more of the stuff in one playthrough if you so choose to. Another drawback in this game is the fact that since Astoria is basically the only safe haven in the whole game, that means you're constantly starting back from there whenever you then go out into the world to go try and do the plot or whatever you want to do. So it can feel repetitive being sent back to the same location than having to walk all the way back to a new location because it gets further and further out each time. But as the game progresses, the enemies do level up higher and higher, so you're not just fighting the same weak fodder every single time. Although that kind of highlights that you kind of wish there was more variety in the enemies kind of thing with the world out there. Like, there's a lot of enemies, but you wish there was more considering the fact that older enemies just get stronger and stronger as the game keeps going. And of course, there's also palace swaps of them, which makes it even doubly redundant. But hey, that's just like one of my biggest nitpicks, the fact that you always start back from Astoria. A weird decision in this game is the fact that you get an arrow in town telling you where the next plot event is, but you don't get that arrow when you leave and are out in the fields. You can open the map and it'll tell you which location you should head to next. If you're gonna do that, why not just give the player an arrow? Because I'm not gonna lie, I was stupid and didn't know I had a world map for so long, so I was just walking around blindly trying to find the next story location until I randomly freaking hit the touchpad and went, oh, I could do the world map the entire time. So this version of the game includes DLC that was originally paid DLC in the original release, but it's not included here for free. And DLC outfits are very disappointing. Like, the first gripe, the men in the party only get one DLC outfit and that's it. Like, well, why? And then the women in the party do get more outfits, but they're just kind of like not really anything worth mentioning. Like, everyone gets an idol outfit, both men and women, but the girls get a school uniform, maid outfit, and several different variants of their swimsuits, which that's pretty much it. Like, you can't even give the boys a swimsuit. Like, why? I don't even understand that kind of thing. Also, this little freaking gachapon machine you can just spend money on to get little figurines in a model viewer mode, which I guess is a thing, but also it's funny that even if you're playing on original mode, it basically spoils who the bonus 2 party members in Refrain mode are, because you get figurines for them and DLC outfits as well. So they kind of really didn't think that part through when it comes to that one-time little gachapon thing, but I don't really feel that big of a deal. Now for the text and UI. Oh yes, I'm going there. I love the fact that there is a little freaking window for the text during the main visual novel as cutscenes, though the background color, it needs to be a bit darker because of the fact that the characters in your party tend to have like very bright colored clothing, so the white text also gets blended in with their outfits, especially with the character Sonia, which is wears like a white and grayish armor, so kind of sucks in that regard, and sometimes it'll be hard to see. I also wish little freaking side dialogue that sometimes pop up in the open world was also a bit bigger, or was more voices most of the time, kind of thing. But I don't like those things also tell you when you play a side quest. That's pretty cool. There's also the fact that during the big bunch of cutscenes, there's no background for the text, but it has huge white text, which is nice. Once again, when a character who has bright colored clothing pops up on screen, the text kind of starts blending in with their outfits. So that's also an issue I have with that. But hey, I like an entire video I made about text and UI in games. Overall, I just like Shining Resonance Refrain. It's not anything super mind-blowing or amazing, but what it tries to do with stuff with the whole harmonics and musical theme with this fantasy setting, I just enjoyed it, okay? I like the combat, as simple as it is, and I enjoy the story and characters. I also like that it keeps also going over to showing what the villains are doing and how they're basically processing all what's going on in the story, which may sound like a basic compliment, but I feel like on this day and age, that rarely happens where I show you what the villains are doing, so I feel like it has to be pointed out. So I do like the fact you get more insight towards them and all that. And like I said, whether you want to pick original or reframe mode, depends on when you want 2 extra characters. Just know the 2 extra characters do have their own events, do have their own little hangouts, do have their own little date stuff, so you are missing out on that if you just go with original mode. So that's why many say it's probably best to just basically take the spoilers in the face of these characters who will eventually side with you, but will be playable in original mode. So there is that. They also have their own DLC outfits, so there is also that entirely taken into account. But from the original Reframe mode, either way, you're gonna get just a pretty fun game, clearly a budget title, and just enjoyable little title. I just played it earlier, and I'm surprised it got so much bashing from either fans of the Shining series or just RPG fans in general, because I feel like people just generally just dislike this game entirely.